What if one of America's founding fathers never died? What if he was never truly alive? Benjamin Rush, the doctor, the signer, the unseen signal. Why did his patients speak in reversed tongues? Why did the Liberty Bell crack at 3:33 a.m.? Why do subharmonics from his speeches alter brainwaves today? Inside Philadelphia lies a circle of power, a sleeping eye, and a tone still pulsing. Was the Constitution just a code for awakening something older than America? They erased his name, but they couldn't erase the frequency. Stay with us if you want to know how it ends. And don't forget to subscribe. They called him a doctor, a thinker, a patriot, but not one of them could explain why Benjamin Rush never aged a single day after his 33rd birthday. His portraits, painted decades apart, show a man frozen in time. No wrinkles, no gray, no decay. Not even George Washington himself could ignore it. In a private letter dated September 1796, never published, never cited in any official biography, Washington writes, "Dr. Dawes, Rush remains unweathered by time. His eyes see through men. I feel unease in his presence, though I know not why." That letter was found hidden inside a hollowed-out copy of Virgil's Aeneid, sealed in the basement library of Mount Vernon. Who put it there? No one knows, but the implications are staggering. Because if you believe the official story, Benjamin Rush was a pioneering physician and signer of the Declaration of Independence. But if you follow the erased pages, the burnt letters, the lost students, a different story emerges. One in which Benjamin Rush was not a man of flesh and blood, but a vessel, a carrier, of something far older than America itself. He entered the historical record in 1768. That's the first known public record, but there are older mentions. A ship manifest from 1741 lists a B, Rush, aboard a vessel from Königsberg to Boston. But the ship sank. There were no survivors, or so they said. In 1752, a Philadelphia widow claims in her journals that a German physician with glassy eyes and perfect speech healed her son of a fever, then vanished before morning. His name? She only wrote the initials, BR. And then there's this, a stone carving, buried beneath a demolished Quaker meeting house in Lancaster County. Carved in a mix of Latin and Old Prussian, it reads, "He is the flood. He walks in skin, not his own. His blood is not ours." The carving dates back to the 1730s. It predates Rush's supposed birth. Benjamin Rush wrote thousands of letters. But there's a pattern. The ink he used glows faintly under UV light. The paper contains trace amounts of orichalcum, a rare metallic compound believed to be mythical. More than 40% of his known letters contain phrases that don't correspond to any known language. Linguists have dismissed it as word salad. But one cryptographer, Raymond Kessler, who worked for the NSA in the 1980s, noticed something. He ran the texts through acoustic inversion software. It revealed tones, frequencies, not language, vibration. They weren't words. They were resonant triggers, designed to activate something. Not in the body, in the mind. At the University of Pennsylvania, a journal was discovered in the restricted archives. It was unsigned, bound in human leather. Inside, 117 pages of mirror-written observations from someone who claimed to be Dr. Rush's assistant. He speaks to the walls. He draws spirals in candle wax. At night, he is not alone. The room bends. The journal ends abruptly. The last page reads, "He offered me a drink, said it would allow me to see what he sees. I refused. I saw him frown, not with disappointment, but hunger." That assistant was never seen again. His name was Thomas Varick. No records exist of his birth or death. Only a small note in the back of a chemistry ledger. Varick absent, presumed insane. In 1793, a yellow fever epidemic struck Philadelphia. Thousands died. Entire neighborhoods were emptied. But Rush walked among them, touched the sick, breathed the infected air. He never wore a mask, never took medicine. He was immune, completely. He claimed to use aggressive bloodletting as a cure. But the bodies found in his care tell a different story. No signs of incisions, but every corpse had blackened pupils, dilated to the edges, as if they'd seen something. Something vast, something final. The coroner reports were sealed. Of the original 112 autopsy files, only 6 survive. The rest were lost in a fire. That fire started in the same room where Rush kept his personal notes. Here's the part they don't teach in schools. Benjamin Rush founded the first American psychiatric hospital, but the original blueprints show underground levels, not listed in city records. Witnesses say the patients weren't restrained for safety. They were restrained to prevent communication. A letter from a nurse, smuggled out in 1801, describes it. They speak in voices not their own. They say the doctor shows them the mirror, the silver eye. They scream only when he leaves. What is the mirror? Why did the voices stop when he left? One possibility. Rush was using the hospital to test psychic induction, a theory hinted at in a classified letter from President John Adams, archived but never released. His methods bear fruit, but the fruit is bitter. He has unlocked something, or been unlocked by it. In 1813, Benjamin Rush died. That's the official version, but no autopsy was performed. No body was embalmed. The coffin was buried sealed and guarded for 72 hours by soldiers. Why? Because the night before the burial, a witness, his cousin, swore under oath that the body moved. Twice, it made a sound, not a breath but a tone, like a tuning fork dropped in deep water. And then came the fire. The building that housed his personal archive burned to the ground at exactly 3:33 a.m. The flames moved against the wind. The fire inspector died 6 days later, raving about a man with black eyes and a voice inside my own voice. To this day, not a single personal effect of Benjamin Rush survives. No clothing, no blood sample, no verified remains. He vanished completely, like a signal turned off or a transmission complete. You've seen his face 100 times. Textbooks, statues, medical schools still name halls after him, but none of them know what the Rush frequency really is. They call it coincidence that the Liberty Bell cracked on the same week his private laboratory was sealed. They call it symbolism that his name appears 13 times in the original draft of the Constitution, and was then reduced to 1. But here's what they don't say. Benjamin Rush wasn't just a signer. He was the tuner. He embedded a sound, a pattern, into the founding of America. And if you trace the vibration, it leads to one place. Independence Hall, Philadelphia, where the bell cracked. The Liberty Bell rang for the last time on July 8th, 1835. That's the official story. But a janitor's logbook from the night of July 4th tells a different tale. He heard the bell sound at exactly 3:33 a.m. No one pulled the rope. No one was inside. But the note in his log is clear. A hum came from the bell, low, then piercing. My nose bled. The candle went out. There was a man on the balcony, in a coat that shimmered like oil. And here's where it spirals. That janitor, Elijah Croft, went blind the next day. But the medical examiner found no damage to the eyes. He died 3 weeks later, repeating a single phrase in Latin, non hominem sed vocem. Not a man, but a voice. Let's decode this. Benjamin Rush's private notes. What little survived mention a vocal prism, a shape, possibly crystalline, possibly fluid, that could amplify human resonance. He believed every human had a frequency, a harmonic ID, and by tuning it, you could rewrite the self. He called it neurophonic translation. Others called it madness. But one phrase repeats across his notes, etched in the margins like a warning. the key is the 13. 13 tones, 13 breaths, 13 nights. What does that mean? Researchers who mapped the tonal structure of Rush's surviving speeches found an anomaly. Every 13th word he spoke, when fed through audio spectrum analysis, reveals subharmonics not producible by the human vocal range. Even modern AI voice replicators can't reproduce them. These tones, the Rush frequencies, seem to affect theta brainwave activity. Specifically, they suppress the frontal lobe, the seat of logic, of resistance, meaning, when he spoke, you listened, not because of what he said, but because your mind was no longer yours. There's more. In 1943, the U.S. Navy conducted an experiment at the Philadelphia Naval Shipyard. You know it as the Philadelphia Experiment. They say it was a failed cloaking test. But declassified memos from the Office of Naval Research tell another story. The goal wasn't invisibility, it was trans-temporal resonance, the replication of Rush's original tones, using electromagnetic fields. They used archived recordings of his speeches, run through Tesla-inspired amplifiers. Result, the USS Eldridge vanished, but that wasn't the real outcome. A sailor, name redacted, emerged days later, not aged, not burned, but altered. He repeated one line, endlessly. He is awake. The bell called. The eye is open. This sailor's DNA showed abnormalities, not mutations, additions, sequences not found in any human genome, but shockingly similar to extremophile organisms found beneath Antarctic ice. The files were sealed under Project Rainglass, but a lab assistant leaked a single image before disappearing. It was a sketch of an eye, embedded in a triangle of sound waves. Labeled only, Rush Signal Nuster 3. Think it stops there? Look at the American $1 bill. The pyramid, the eye, the 13 steps. It was Rush who advised the original Committee on National Symbols. Franklin gets the credit, but Rush provided the design. In a letter to Franklin, dated 1779. The symbol must not just signify, it must resonate. Those who look long enough will remember who they were. Before the noise. Before the noise. What noise? The noise of reason, of false memory, of synthetic identity. What if Rush's real goal wasn't healing, but awakening? Now here's what they deleted from every textbook. Benjamin Rush was removed from the official list of founding fathers in the 1876 Centennial Revision. Why? Because in 1875, a child in Philadelphia was hospitalized for fever. She spoke no known language. She drew spirals on the walls, and when shown a portrait of Rush, she screamed and said, "He watches through the mirror." The hospital burned that year. No record of the child survived, except one drawing of a man with empty eyes and a bell embedded in his chest. Let me ask you something. Have you ever looked at the Liberty Bell and felt, watched? Have you ever heard a sound at night? A tone you couldn't place? Not a car, not a machine, but something older. Have you ever spoken a sentence and wondered, was that me or something using me? Benjamin Rush was not one man. He was a signal sent before America began, and some say he never stopped broadcasting. Let's talk about Philadelphia, not the city you know, the city beneath it, the one Rush designed, the one Franklin approved, the one they built before the Constitution, the layout of central Philadelphia. Broad Street, Market Street, the 5 squares. Looks random, but overlay it with a 17th century diagram of the Tree of Life from Kabbalistic mysticism. They align perfectly. City Hall sits on the dot point, the hidden sphere, the one that doesn't officially exist. Now go deeper. The cornerstone of City Hall was laid in 1874, but before the ceremony, workers discovered a circular stone chamber 40 feet beneath the site, made of basalt, etched with symbols no archaeologist could place. They sealed it. They said it was unstable. But one worker, before he died, told his grandson, "There were no stairs down there. You don't walk into it, you fall." Now listen to this. In 1901, City Hall was hit by lightning. The statue of William Penn, 37 feet tall, was not damaged. But every clock in the building stopped at 3:33 a.m. Same minute the Liberty Bell had rung. Same minute Rush's archive burned. Coincidence or resonance? A file from the Historical Society, marked for internal review only, contains a photograph of the chamber's interior. It shows 13 circles, interlinked, carved into the floor. And in the center, an eye, not human, insectoid, multifaceted, reflective, etched below in faint Latin, vocem sequere, umbra est lux, follow the voice. The shadow is the light. Benjamin Rush mentioned this phrase in a private letter to Adams, 1798. He said it came to him in sleep. He said it glowed when he wrote it. He said the words were not his. And now, the phrase on every dollar bill, "In God we trust." But that was added in 1956, right? Wrong. Rush wrote it, or something identical, in his 1777 notebook, on a page covered in spirals. Only the word wasn't God, it was God, spelled with an Old Norse eth and a slashed O. When read phonetically using Old Phrygian rules, it doesn't say God, it says entity that watches without name. He wasn't invoking religion. He was invoking presence, and the trust? Not hope, not belief, but contract, a pact, signed in tone, sealed in bell metal, ratified in blood not ours. Let's bring it home. Why Philadelphia? Because it's the only city in America where 13 ley lines cross, measured by electromagnetic satellite scans. NASA black-boxed the data in 1998. At the exact intersection sits City Hall. Rush chose it. He knew the grid. He tuned the architecture to resonate with what he called the sleeper frequency. His hospital, built directly above a junction point. His home, on the acoustic echo path of the bell. His body, gone. But something remained. In 2021, a private research team attempted a sonar scan beneath Independence Hall. They picked up rhythmic pulses, not seismic, not mechanical, biological, one beat, every 13 seconds, like a heartbeat. You were never supposed to know this. You were supposed to see a founding father, not a vessel, not a tuner, not a transmitter for a signal older than memory. But now you've heard the tone. Now you've seen it. And once you see it, it sees you back. They'll say this is fiction, a hoax, a story. Good. That's what they said in 1875, in 1943, in 2001, until the tone came through, until the bell rang on its own, until the eye opened again. And you will hear it too, late at night, just between waking and sleep. A hum, a voice, calling. 13, 13, not a man, but a voice that once shaped a nation and may now be shaping you.